Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to Red Hot Talk once again. And this week we are continuing our brand talk. And we have spoken Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fuji, Lumix, and OM System. Right? I think that's all we have done so far, Rod.
Yeah, I think so. I think
so. So this week we're gonna have another big brand, perhaps a brand that we should spend a little bit more time and effort, simply because they are well respected. They are also very well known in the industry, yet they're not very widespread from a product point of view. They're not very widely used from the mass market, and of course, we are talking about Leica. And so let's start off with the conversation and welcome everybody. And I want to know how much you know about Leica cameras and how many of you have used Leica cameras, whether it's going to be film analog cameras or digital cameras, whether it's going to be rangefinder M cameras or their old SLR cameras to the medium format cameras. They are certainly interesting products, and we're going to talk a little bit about the different product lines that they currently have, and maybe we talk a little bit about the Leica's philosophy in photography and why we should respect them more than just by looking at the spec sheet itself. So, Rod, how have you been? In terms of using Leicas, have you used many of their previous cameras before?
More recently, I have. I never really used film Leicas. Back when I started in photography, there's no way I could even contemplate affording Leica gear. And I think in my youth, I was probably rather arrogant about the whole thing and thought they're just ridiculously expensive. Nobody could afford them. It's just nonsense. But later on, with the move to digital, I spent more time with Leica cameras. I've reviewed a few. I've used a few more. And I think my opinion has shifted somewhat, particularly in light of how photography has changed.
Yeah.
And how the way people shoot and see things has kind of moved into a new style, which I think makes the way Leica cameras work all the more important. Even though they seem old-fashioned and expensive, big and heavy, what they do and how they do it has actually become rather more important, I think.
Absolutely. And for those who are new to photography, for instance, they may not actually appreciate Leica as much, because if you're just purely comparing numbers and spec sheets, you always see that Leica cameras are basically overpriced cameras. No matter how you look at it, to start it off, the M cameras are menu focus only rangefinder camera. Menu focus, like these day and age, people will think that, oh, menu focus shouldn't even be existing in the world. Everything's autofocus now, and you're spending that amount of money. Basically, you can acquire an A&R or the top of the range mirrorless camera from full frame, whether it's going to be Canon, Nikon, Sony, whatever. You can spend that money and get some of the most tech heavy top of the range camera you can find on the market right now. And then you look at the SL, which they are full frame SLR style mirrorless cameras, which is supposed to compete with the other top end cameras from the big threes. But yet again, if you look at this spec sheet alone, they just can't compete, right? They just don't have the same sort of AI technology. They don't have the same thing. So it's really hard for newcomers or people who are not familiar with Leica to truly understand exactly what these products are.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a practical way of looking at stuff, you're going to say, why the hell would anyone buy these? They cost more and do less. What the hell? I mean, that's the bottom line. And there's that opinion is fairly strong on the internet, I would say. But then it's a brand where it looks ridiculous until you spend some time immersed in the way these cameras work, the way Leica approaches photography.
Yep.
They'll never stop being expensive, but after a while you do start to see the point.
And that's the point we're trying to get across. It's
Yes.
It's mostly to do with the actual experience of shooting these cameras, and also about I would say photography in general. Simply because I think there are lots of us who are now accustomed to modern digital technology, especially from the AI's point of view, from the tracking mode that we have now, all the automations that are in all the modern digital cameras, they are very good technologies for those who know exactly what they're doing. But for those who are not, just simply relying on this technology to do the jobs, would definitely, I think, anyway, it's damaging the development of a photographer from the skill point of view.
Yeah, I think who says photography has to be easy? Just because you made things easier, does it mean you made things better? Like do you remember painting by numbers?
Yeah.
Where you had a sheet and you had little areas you painted in different colours.
Yeah.
That certainly made painting easier.
Yeah.
I don't think there are many people who would say it made painting any better. So I mean, photography doesn't have to be easy, does it? We assume if something is easier is better, but is that right?
I think it's too easy. It's kind of lose out the fun anyway. The whole point of photography as a hobby, or the enjoy photography in general, is that experience that you have to go through. It's the thought process, the making process, the development process. All these processes all joined up together give you that satisfaction at the end. Like from the beginning, you wanted to take that shot, you envision that shot you're gonna happen, you take it, come back, process it. Eventually, hopefully, you do print them, and you print them out. You say, "Oh wow, that's what I saw in my brain, like 2 months ago, and now I have it in my hand." It's just like really, really awesome experience, I think. So that's definitely something we're gonna discuss, maybe just a little bit more in detail. But just to start it off, go back a little bit, like to just follow on all our formats that we've done for all the brands that we've done so far. Is that look back and Leica and how the beginning is. For those who may not necessarily understand, is that Leica revolutionized small format cameras in a sense, 135 format. It's almost like Micro Four Third. Now we have a small format, and the initial perception about these cameras were horrible because people were using large format cameras, medium format cameras, and they don't associate Leica as a proper tool simply because it's a small format, it's a small camera. It doesn't produce the best quality you can get. But then again, like certain type of photography starting to pop up here and then, like more notably, street photography. Like Onico Di Person famously used the M3 and the M2s in the early days, shooting everywhere around, and it's something that you can't do with a large format camera. You have to set up a tripod, put a cloth behind you. It's a very slow and cumbersome experience, and that really revolutionized how modern photographers shoot on the street or at location. People no longer have to set up huge equipment just to take a shot. They can simply handhold something small, pack of 2 or 3 cameras, have a number of rolls in the back, and go and just enjoy themselves.
It's hard to remember, isn't it, that when the Leica M rangefinders first came out, they were not proper cameras, as you say. Back in those days, kind of 120 roll film was like the baseline. Use that if you had to, but proper photographers had field cameras. 5x4 sheet film if you must, but 10x8 ideally. But yeah, back in those days, 35mm shooting on 35mm film. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's adapted from film stock anyway, wasn't it? Like 35mm film stock, adapted into cassettes, shooting horizontally to get a slightly bigger image. I'm sure back in the day it was considered a bit of a joke until over a period of time, these images started appearing of a kind that nobody had ever seen before, because that's what became possible.
I think it's mainly because of the small format, the mobility that it added to the enabling the photographers to do certain things that they previously simply couldn't do with a few cameras. Possible, no. Like ultra low angle shots, and Hewitt, who done a lot of these little dog shots, from very super low angle. These things just can't be done with large format cameras. Medium format cameras, probably if you got a roller, you can do hip level, low level shots. That possibility, but still not a small camera by any means. And if you want to be discreet, want to be inconspicuous, when you go out on the street and just start and snap around, I think Leica was the camera at the time.
And you can't really zone focus in the same way with a larger format because it just isn't that depth of field.
Yeah.
You can't just stick it on f8 and go
Yeah.
out and shoot. You just haven't got the depth of field to do it. So yeah, I think it did change the way people shot. Also, 36 shots on a roll. That's incredible.
It's massive. Yes.
Who'd ever heard of such a thing? Normally you'd be sliding glass plates in and out. So you might have a roll film camera and wind it on, but
one shot at a time. If you're lucky enough to have a rollie, and you probably can get about 8 shots from the 120, and yeah.
Was it 12 on the square format? Did they have?
Yes,
120.
yes.
That's how it started. Yeah. So
yeah, if you got 645, you're probably about that only six shots. I can't remember exactly how many shots you can get now.
But if you had a 6x9 Fujifilm, for example, then would that be 8? I don't know. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But well, so it did change stuff. But then today we think of Leica as being a luxury brand that's far more, that's over-engineered and far better than we need. Back in the day, it was exactly the opposite.
Yeah,
it's just a small format that had to prove itself. It was a small format.
It's reminiscent, or actually remind me of the Michael Four Thirds of modern days. It's like they're trying to shrink the camera in physical size and enabling a certain type of photography that can't be done before. And I know these days the argument is, all the cameras are very similar now, especially from the camera body's point of view. Some certain full frame cameras are as small as a Michael Four Thirds camera, but Michael Four Thirds still have many advantages over larger formats such as IBIS and all the other things. So combined with all these features, and you can actually create something that you can't still, with larger format cameras.
And I think as well that in some ways, although Leica's now associated with quality, I don't think Leica as a brand has ever really tried to push technical quality as being its thing. It's always been about the experience of using the camera and how you take pictures.
Yes. But speaking of quality, there's always a big discussion about a thing that we always talk about, is the Leica look. And obviously the Leica look is something that is quite hard to describe. It's quite hard to explain, or even to compare or quantify. And something that Rod can try. Maybe shall we bring up some of images and see we can do that? Okay. There we go. Right,
so
let's look at this.
So that one, I think this was probably the second Leica rangefinder I'd tested. It's a Leica M10 monochrome, and I think it's an interesting point because with most cameras, you think, right, this camera better live up to what I want to do. When you get something like a Leica, you think, oh, now I've got something to live up to. So what it did was it made me try to shoot in a style of traditional Leica photography, which is how I came to take this shot. It was I passed a donkey in a field. The donkey thought I had a carrot. I might have led the donkey to believe I had a carrot. I feel bad about this to this day. But I thought, this donkey's going to do some quite weird stuff. I'm just going to try and catch some weird expressions. So luckily I did. Took quite a few attempts because the focusing is not that straightforward. But I guess the moral of my story is that because I was shooting with this camera that's so very different, it made me think differently. If I'd been going out shooting with any other camera, I'd have been testing for resolution, I'd have been testing for autofocus speed, I'd have been testing for edge definition, all sorts of extremely boring things. But because I was shooting with this camera that's so very different, I felt I had to work a bit harder, and it made a difference. Yes,
absolutely. I mean, I think. Shooting with a Leica M camera, especially not the autofocus products like the SL and also the Q, M system is still fully menu, and to exploit the system, you have to have a slightly different mindset and approach to photography. This is something that I think what Leica is concentrating on, and that's why it's still a relatively successful formula even to date, is that for those who want a slightly different experience in photography, would would probably look up to Leica, and then one day I want to shoot rangefinder. And we are not talking about just styling. We're not talking about like Fujifilm X100. We're not talking about X Pro, that kind of even
No.
like the Olympus Pen F. They are rangefinder style cameras, but they're not rangefinder. They are very, very different. They shoot differently. The ability to exploit the system is totally, separate from what we know from the SLR days, especially since the invention of autofocus, because it's something that is very, very complicated in a way. Yet, actually, I wouldn't say complicated. It's actually simpler, but to the way that it complicates yourself to be able to exploit the system. I think Rod just disappeared. Oh, he's back now. Oh, there's no noise. Hang on a second. What happened there? Can you hear me? No. There's no noise, no sound. Okay, let's go back to here. No, can you hear? You can, yeah, you can hear me. Rod can't hear. No, I can't. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Okay. I don't know what I can do from here. Looks like it's not mute. Okay. Right, Rod, you may have to try again. See if you can come out and try and come back in again. Right, let's continue our discussion a little bit until Rod can come back with audio. No, what happened there? What's in the green room? 1 second. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to sort Rod out. Okay, let me just. I'm trying to add guest. See if I can add. Nope, not that one. Okay, let's see if I can add right. I can't seem to be able to disable you. Oh gosh. Right. It's no audio for some reason. Okay, guys. Just wait for me 1 second. I'm trying to sort out the audio issue that Rod has. Right. 1 second. I'm just trying to search something. So while we are trying to resolve this, and I know Chuck has mentioned about Leica is the closest you can get to a handmade camera. Indeed, yes, they are. Especially they are remaking certain manual film cameras. So that is definitely a handmade camera. I still enjoy a bit of mechanical stuff, to be quite honest, and I think something. Oh, hang on. In the green room, what did happen? Sorry. Even the digital M cameras are mostly handmade, by the way, apart from obviously certain components like the chips and the sensor and all the others are not genuinely handmade, and they are machine generated. So but majority of the stuff, including hand checks and everything, is all handmade. Right, 1 second. Okay. Sorry, guys. I am just trying to sort out. Oh gosh. Right. Let me just disable Rod and bring Rod back in, and assign to guest one. Okay, add to the right. Nope, still nothing. And remove from green room. Oops. Oh gosh, Rod's gone. Right, Rod, you have to come back in again. All right, let's see how. Okay, add to the right. Still in green room. I have no idea why you're in green room, Rod. I'm not entirely sure what happened there. Okay. 1 second. It's not a good start today, isn't it? And right, let's swap us around. No, it doesn't work. Let's swap cameras again. Oh dear. Oh dear. Right, I'm just trying again. Exactly why you're in green room, I have no idea. Okay. Right. While we are waiting, and let me show you some photos. And let's hoping that we can get Rod back. I can get Rod in videos, but I can't manage to get his audio back for some reasons. Oh, Robin is here. Okay, and Robin saying the anxiety I get every time I do a live stream. Yes, exactly how I feel at the moment. Thanks, Robin. And trying to resolve something live is always very, very tricky, and especially I'm not a technical genius, so that is something that I can't quite work out at the moment. So I may need to Google a little bit just to see how I can get Rod out of the green room. Video source. Okay, everybody just say hi to Robin. Is in the chat room. You can speak to him for the time being while I'm trying to resolve something here. And so for you guys who would know exactly what Leica is, and I think that it should be an interesting talk today if I can sort this out. All right. Okay. Oh gosh. Right, everybody, we're going to have a quiet session today. Everyone online, just start chatting away. Anything you want to ask, please do ask. I might have to edit this video and then we upload it for those people who just joined us, and because we got a whole section of silence from Rod at the moment, and we'll have to chop it out and then re-listen again. So bear with me 1 second. I'm still trying to resolve this issue. So give me some seconds. Rod, can you actually type in the chat room too, or you can't? Because you can send direct message to me, but I don't seem to be able to see you interacting in the chat room. Oh, that's what I suspected. You're only in the green room. You're locked in the green space, Rod. Right, okay. I did try to remove you, and right, let's see. Okay, right, I understand. Right, guys, I may have to restart the stream. I think there is some technical difficulties in this stream at the moment. I can't bring Rod out to the green room because it's supposed to be automatic, by the way. And yeah, it's not happening. I can't get him out. And so he is totally muted. So I'm going to have to finish this stream at this moment and restart. So thank you for your patience, and please rejoin as soon as I restart the stream. Thank you very much.